Hello, my name is Max, and I am the founder and creator of the Ambitious Creators podcast, the very first one. Hello, welcome. What is this? This podcast is built to deliver you really interesting conversations with ambitious creators. Creators is a very broad term, and it's kind of on purpose. Why did I start this podcast in the first place? Is probably the first question, just to say. I personally have recognized more recently my big why. My why was from when I was a child. My dad passed away when I was 8 years old, and I, as a teenager, had the biggest questions to ask about life. It makes you really think about things when bad things like that happen to you. And so it led me to question, why are we even here? The very biggest of questions. And so the more I thought about those, the more I couldn't even sleep. I had insomnia for a good period of time. I had to listen to the OC soundtrack to distract myself as a 16-year-old boy on repeat as I went to sleep. And the way I dealt with it at the beginning was through weed, drinking, and blunting it generally, all the way through till I was about 24, 25 years old. Well, I was 25 specifically, when a woman, a girl I was dating, rejected me, and it was enough pain to make me change. And ever since that point, I've taken responsibility and ownership of chasing answers to these questions rather than running away from them. So this is my core driver. And so to do that, I want to, the most important thing out of all of that is to drive humanity forward as quickly as we possibly can. So Elon Musk says it really well, to expand human consciousness. And you have to do that through creativity and ambition is the two big things that I think are needed to be able to deliver on that. So that's what I'm focusing on in this, and that's who I want to talk to. That's what's important to me, is I need to meet people and learn from them who are those traits. And I think it'd be really interesting for you to be able to follow along in those conversations and hopefully learn as much as I get to. And it's just a good excuse basically for me to reach out to them and get to talk to them. Some of the topics I'm interested in covering, just some of them. Genetic engineering, I think being able to play with biology is something I've always personally been really, really passionate about. I almost went into a career in it. Innovation generally, the kind of hyper innovation of AI. I'm just starting to get into machine learning myself. And so many other topics like the virtual world is really exciting. So virtual reality and all this kind of stuff. Learning all together. So Elon Musk's neural link is a really great example. You'll hear me talk about Elon Musk a lot because I'm a fucking fanboy of his. He's every single creation he thinks, I'm like, yeah, that's the kind of business I'd like to create. So Neuralink in particular is a good example of learning though, and I think it's quite underutilized in terms of innovation. There's a lot of innovation opportunity within learning, and it's one of the best return on investments too. If I can speed up my learning by 5%, that's much more valuable as a compounding interest than practically any other investment I'm going to make for myself, is to expand my own intelligence and knowledge. Philosophy, hugely important to think about as like the biggest questions, as I've said, is what drove me in the first place. Books like Man's Search for Meaning by Viktor Frankl, like books like that they change everything about your life, the best of those philosophy books and those ideas that come with them. Space travel, we should not ignore this, that we're becoming interplanetary species. That is one of the most exciting things happening, at least right now. Lots of amazing opportunities in farming, vertical farming, underground farming, all of these things. I think they're really exciting to be able to create our own food in a much cleaner, healthier way within our own cities, and not having to send our oranges over from New Zealand when we're sat in the UK, etc. Escaping aging and immortality. I think that's something that we shouldn't be ashamed of to say. Death is important in many ways, and it serves a purpose, but we shouldn't avoid trying to escape death. I think living longer and wanting to live longer and healthier is a perfectly intelligent and wise thing to aim for and as a goal. Mindfulness and kind of mental health altogether is the biggest killer of men. I'm pretty certain this is still true. The biggest killer of men today, under 40 in the UK, is suicide. It's death from mental disorders or illnesses. That is not talked about still enough. And there is very little work being put into it to solve that, in my opinion, in comparison to many of the other big problems anyway, like cancer and many of the other big killers. And lastly, just to say, using business for positive impact altogether. I think like the natural world and trying to protect that, and sustainability to create through ecotourism, for example, is one of my big backgrounds, is using ecotourism to create an incentive to protect the natural world over the oil that sits underneath that jungle, for example. I think lots of ideas like that are always exciting to me and interesting to talk about. So these are just some of the ideas and kinds of businesses and types of people that I want to get to talk to. It's going to range a lot, and this is obviously the first time I've started this, so who knows what's going to happen. So I'd say, and some of them would just be me probably. I'm probably just going to talk to myself for a while, you know. It's always fun for someone like myself anyway. So please do subscribe if you've enjoyed, if you like the idea of this and this sounds like an interesting kind of like concept to follow, and listening to kind of ambitious, exciting people. I'm very good at getting a hold of people, so fingers crossed that's the most important part, is I can get some exciting people to talk to on this. So click the subscribe button, hit the like button's always really helpful, and comment who I should interview would be really great to hear as well, because I need more inspiration for that. Otherwise, thank you very much for turning up and getting to the 6-minute mark. That is spectacular, and I look forward to what is to come.